Hello and welcome to the WhichBookie YouTube channel. We are here for the Royal Ascot preview. We're doing one for every single day, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You come back each day to see our uploads. We're going to get them out the day before each day's race here. That gives us time for me and Will to look in there and find out probably a bit more confidence with our selections. As always, though, there's a link in the description for the WhichBookie daily tips page where once we've decided our final bets, they will be uploaded. I'm pretty confident Will's will go up fairly soon after the videos go out, so you can get straight in there just to definitely check what the selections are for each of the days racing. Mine will go up at 8 a.m. of the day of each racing, so Tuesday bets will go up on Tuesday morning, and then obviously we'll talk about what our thoughts are in this video as well. So there might be a few other ins that might not make the column, or we might just get excited about stuff. But the videos are good, right? Because you can see how excited we get about certain horses. And yeah, I'm excited about Royal Ascot this year, Will. 5 days of proper racing. We quickly said before we came on air, the Tuesday entries and declarations when they came through, I was like, this is exciting. Wednesdays put me off a little bit, so I need a little bit of extra work on there. But how could you not be excited about Royal Ascot? It's going to be a good week, right?
Yeah, proper racing, isn't it? And, you know, really good fields. And we've got consistent ground and weather as well, which is often with some of these meetings where you just want to plan and go through the form and figure out without any other sort of potential unseen factors like rain that we often get on these shores. But no, weather looks set fair. You know, ground is going to be fast, proper racing. Yeah, really excited.
Yeah, same as it. So what we'll do as well, Will, is we'll go through every single race for the viewers for each day because it's proper racing. And then at the end, we'll push you for like a best bet. So we'll both suggest what maybe our nap and next best is for the day. But as I say, again, you can click the link in the description to find out what the advised bets are via the column. So Will, let's just get stuck into it. Right. It's just so good with these flat meetings when you get to the proper racing, because we kick off with a Group 1, the Queen Anne Stakes, over a mile. And it's a real good looking field this year. The Lockinge has been a real pointer towards the winner of this race for loads of times this century. I think 15 winners this century have come from the Lockinge. Only 9 of those had won the Lockinge and came in to win this race. So brings in the first 4 in the betting. We've got Rosalien head in the market at 11-4. Lead Artist, who did win the Lockinge, is in at 5-1. Dancing Gemini, who wasn't beaten far, to be fair, top price 11-2. Notable Speech is 6-1. Sardinian Warrior is 7-1. It's 12-1 and bigger the rest. Couple of firms are offering 4 places as well. We've got 11 runners in here, and looks a real, competitive betting heat. But I feel like when the markets are priced up like this, there's a few horses you can make a case for. And I think even if we disagree, if you fancy your own horse, they're probably all priced with a little bit of value in them towards the front end. So are you looking towards one of the runners from the Lockinge, or are you going further afield?
No, I think the Lockinge form is obviously the one that the market is absolutely focused on. As you'd expect, Group 1 form. Most of those horses have form at Ascot as well to some degree. So, but I don't have small doubts about a couple of them on the straight track at Ascot as opposed to the round track when they might have run on it previously, namely Rosalien. But it's one of those outside of the Lockinge actually that I think is probably the overpriced horse in the race, and that's Sardinian Warrior for John and Thady Gosden. Interesting that Christophe Soumillon is booked. He rode him over in France last time out when just got outstayed over 9 furlongs on what was pretty tacky ground at Longchamp behind Sozy, who's obviously a very, very good horse, strong stayer at 10 furlongs as well. And he just got outstayed by Sozy on that occasion. But that will have put him spot on for this. He won the Queen Anne trial, don't forget, in pretty decent fashion, I thought, on his seasonal opener. And that was his sort of turf opener, if you will, as well, because he'd been campaigned on the weather up to that point. And that was probably why, coming in with the profile he's got, he's probably just been a little bit overlooked because of his stepping stones on the all-weather. But that run, like I said, in the Queen Anne trial, really fast time, travelled through it really, really nicely, and eventually was probably not doing much in front. Docklands was coming to him, but he was always holding him off. And I think he's the type of horse that a mile and fast ground, he'll always just do enough. So it'd be nice to have something to take him into the race. But he's fairly versatile with regards to tactics. And I do think he should be in there mixing it with the Lockinge runners in terms of price. I thought he'd be around about a 9-2, sort of 5-1 poke. So 7-1 Sardinian Warrior, I think, is a really nice bet. And 4 places bet 365 with that price is, that's the bet of the race for me.
I like that. Yeah, and you're not the only good judge that's made a good case for Sardinian Warrior as well in there. So confidence from yourself And I think there's confidence elsewhere for him as well. So yeah, 7-1 looks fair price. Like we said, there's 4 places up for grabs, 5th of the odds. I'm probably relatively boring on the Tuesday, to be fair, Will. Like I like Rosalian. I've looked at this race, not more than I should have done, but it's a bit like the Supreme, isn't it? You want to get off to a good start. You start to get stuck into it. You can start to go down all different trails and paths and stuff. But I try not to overcomplicate it, in my view, in this race, because you easily could. Now, I like Notable Speed as a horse. When they both ran in the lock-ins last time, both trainers said they were ready to do themselves justice. And then straight after the race, both trainers said, well, they'll still come forward for the race. And they were both pretty bullish that they'd come and win this race after. Now, I don't want to necessarily take that with a pinch of salt, but the reality was in that lock-in, Lead Artist and Dancing Gemini had already raced this season. I feel that day at Newbury as well, it was almost like a little golden highway that you wanted to be sort of near side of the middle on the stand side. They had, I think, the perfect bit of track the whole way through. And I think the fact that Rosalian and Notable Speech did finish near each other was a compliment to the fact that they will step forward for the run, and they maybe just got beat by race fit horses. Now, that's not to say that they wouldn't be able to uphold that form. I really do respect Lead Artist. I love Dancing Gemini as well. I was keen on him at the start of the season. He was a horse I wanted to just follow in every run until he got beat, and then I didn't back him the next time up at Sandown, and then I was against him in the lock-ins, and I thought he actually ran a stormer in there. So, it is just a race where there is a handful of horses that you wouldn't be surprised if they won it, but it's just, I know Rosalian's form from last year doesn't really stand out to be outstanding anymore. The types of horses he was beating, even beating Hartum, who they're going up and trip with him later in the week, aren't they? And is just a bit gone, but he did have a setback after. Henry Longfellow's not really done anything to advertise the form of it. And then, like I say, that line with Notable Speech from last season coming into this season, they look about the same. So the price discrepancy between the two of those is probably a little bit too much. But you touched on a lot of these horses had been to Ascot before. I think that might be the difference for Rosalian over a Notable Speech making the improvement, because Notable Speech did bomb it. I'm not saying that he won't, he's guaranteed to do that again, but I just think they know how to get this horse ready for a particular occasion. And I just think he's a very gutsy horse as well, because the 2 wins that he had last season, where I say the form doesn't look that good, the one where he beat Hartum and the one that he beat Henry Longfellow, they were narrow margins really, but he really stuck his neck out to get it done. And you go back to his 2-year-old season where he was sort of dotting up against horses, apart from when he got beaten by Iberian. I think he just looks the type that, as a 4-year-old, now he's strengthened up a little bit. He may have just needed that 3-year-old season, but he was still able to pick up 2 Group 1s. So I'm keeping the faith with Rosalian. I do respect lots of the other horses in here. I think it's going to be an absolute belter to get things off to proceedings. But I feel like while he's still about an 11-4 poke, I like him. And I did some stat things on horses that had been to Royal Ascot before and how much of a positive it was in the lock-ins. And you can really, you have to filter it quite a bit to make it a positive case for horses that have been to Royal Ascot. If you backed every horse blind, Will, that hasn't been to Royal Ascot or been to Ascot before, they're just profitable to back blind this century and in the last decade. Ones that have been to Ascot, if they've been to Ascot and they've been beaten, they're not profitable to follow blind, but that's, you're going to get lots of big price ones in there. If they've won at Ascot and they're priced 4-1 or shorter, it's a massive positive. You'd make quite a bit of money back in those ones blind. So confirmation bias more than anything saying those stats, because Rosalian's been to Ascot, he's won, and he's under 4-1. But I love the fact that this is such a deep race, because there's no hiding place. The best horse will have to win this race. Yeah. And I like that. I think the trainers as well, they'll have been getting excited. They'll be getting them proper primed up for trying to get the meeting off to a good start. So we'll have that, Will. Hopefully Rosalian wins and Sardinia Warrior comes second, or if not, if I get beat by you, that's fine. But the good news is, Will, we've got more racing to get stuck into. We go straight into the Coventry Stakes after this, a Group 2 where there's not an abundance of form to go on, but my word, does it look like it's a proper renewal this year. I think there's some really exciting horses that are in here. I'll go first this one, because I think I can keep mine relatively short, because Postmodern, they backed the second horse that day. I think it was quite a big purchase as well. But Postmodern, the way that he won that race at Yarmouth just looked like a potential freak. And I know in these instances, there's only so much confidence you can have. You don't know how much they're going to progress from the first run to the second run. And when there's a bit of pressure applied and all of those factors, there's a lot of unknowns that go in with it. But he looked like he had so much left in him, and we haven't had time really for the form to be sort of advertised in behind. But Yarmouth is a track that a lot of horses have been there, maybe underperformed, and trainers will say, yeah, they didn't particularly like the track or they didn't handle it. So I think for a horse making their debut at a track like that to canter through a race, go through the line stupidly strong, And when he was asked to quick up a little bit, not necessarily showboating, but I like a jockey to at least ask them to do something, because they could be travelling really well, but that's just the jockey maybe giving that impression. But I mean, he picked up fairly quickly, and he still had like almost like a lug in his head where you knew that the jockey wasn't fully letting him go, and the horse was like, "Come on, I want to go faster." So I think he's definitely the one to beat. I don't really like Gustad's form over in Ireland. Like I know it's Aidan O'Brien, I know it's Ryan Moore, and I know the horse that Gustad beat, True Love, has got that form with Lady Imam that won the Real Good Trial, that she's not coming over. But I don't think as much as it's good form in terms of the trials that it is, I don't think it was as strong as it would have been in previous years. And I don't think Gustad's done anywhere near as much as Postmodern's done, even though they've got the same RPRs. So I'd say Postmodern should be favourite. And Military Code, the form of his like racing does keep getting franked. And it is other horses that are obviously doing that. That is just how that franking the form works, isn't it? But it's the fact that it's 5 furlongs that he's done it, and his race at Newmarket, he looked almost a little bit idle towards the end. He's bred to want further, like most of these will be. But I have my doubts about Military Code, maybe at the moment at 6 furlongs, for all that he could just be too good to show it up. But I think Postmodern and Military Code I reckon they're a good bit clear of everything else in this field. So a Postmodern will definitely be a horse that I'll be betting, but it'll be one of those, again, within the column we can see, like I'll put the points and stakes in there as well. I'd never want to get too overly excited in a race like this, because we don't know too much, but I think Postmodern could be special. And I said I was going to be quick, Will. That's as quick as I could have done it. How do you see this race? Because it's nice. There's typically horses with very limited form, but we might have got an impression of something, and you can get some shocks in there at big prices. So was there ones towards the sort of rear of the market rather than the ones that I've mentioned you liked, or was it very much just modern wins?
I think there are. I think the market has obviously predictably gone with the likes of Postmodern, Military Code, Gustad, Warsaw. Horses that have made a good impression and are from sources that will have, always aimed at Royal Ascot, and they're going to be early 2-year-olds, aren't they? But, as ever with these types of races, there are going to be horses that have flown way under the radar. And we see it year in, year out with all the 2-year-old races, horses winning at big prices or filling the frame at big prices. And there's one here I really like, actually, who's a shorter price now than when markets first opened up. But it's Rock on Thunder for Kevin Ryan, who, Kevin Ryan wouldn't have many 2-year-old Royal Ascot runners at all. He only generally saves the horses for Royal Ascot that he really thinks are going to suit it at that stage of the season. You often see his 2-year-olds peaking more as you get through towards the likes of Goodwood and then onto York's Ebor meeting almost as well. So the fact that he's willing to send Rock on Thunder here, I think, is really notable, because his Leicester win, visually, in terms of the winning distance, it wasn't sort of kind of that real wow factor as such. But there were a number of factors that day at Leicester that I think he really outran even the winning performance. He travelled through the race so well on the wing towards the stand side. So he didn't have cover. It was on rain-softened ground, and it was on probably the worst part of the track at Leicester as well. Generally on softish ground, you want to be more towards that far side. And he won so easily. He really did. And horses that raced on the similar part of the track, namely Calico Blue and Igoli, they've both come out and won since, has won decent races since as well. The time was pretty good on the day as well. And if you look at his pedigree, better ground and Ascot as well will really suit him. His sire, Knight of Thunder, obviously did well at Ascot. He's related to San Donato, who finished second in a decent race here at Ascot, and Diablo Rojo finished second in the Commonwealth Cup. He's a half brother as well. So there's so much kind of form and pedigree that suggests that Rock on Thunder is really going to suit Ascot and fast ground at Ascot as well. And the final thing is, at this stage, the going stick readings, now, this is 24 hours out, so not completely categorical with this, but they suggest that the stand side is perhaps not the place to be at the minute. Now that can change over 24 hours. So just purely looking at it now, middle to far side is supposedly faster ground according to the going stick, and drawn in stall 10 of 21 near a fair few horses that will go forward. I really quite like Rock on Thunder, actually. I think he's a decent bet. 16, 14 to 1, something like that is really good for Kevin Ryan's runner. The other couple at massive prices that I'll give mentions to, Bourbon Blues for Brian Meehan, last year's winning trainer. He won nicely at Brighton. Don't think the track suited him whatsoever there. you can see him taking a nice step forward again from that. You can get 80 to 1 if you shop around about him. And the other one is Gavu for David Manan, who's drawn right under the stand side rail. So just a small bit of a worry there if that might not be the place to be, but he's near a lot of the market principles. He ran a really quick time in Listowel last time out, over 6.5 furlongs around a bend. Don't think that sort of tightish bend really suited him. I think straight track 6 furlongs, I think he could outrun his price. He's about 33s, 40s as well. So a couple of wild prices that will run well, but Rock on Thunder, really quite sweet on, I must admit.
Yeah, fair. He was on my shortlist, Rock on Thunder, to be fair, because Jim Crowley in the finish at Leicester, like he was well on top at the line as well, wasn't he? And like you say, with where he raced, like he had every reason to just win and not be well on top at the end. But yeah, he seemed to have bundles left in him after. It's a big race as well. There's 4 places that are like each way terms for bookies. We've got 21 runners in it. If you look at the place pot, you've got to get something in the first 3 wheel. So it's good to throw these ones up at big prices, isn't it? This is the sort of leg you want to get through that could be a bit of a place pot buster. The only one, I say the only one, the one that is a massive price and is just too big a price that I will not let go unbacked is Tadej. He's had probably like too many runs, but I do think he looks like, well, a very progressive type, and he looks like almost like a more polished type than some of these other ones that maybe their inexperience could tell. He already looks like he knows how to do a job, and I think if there's like a bit of a like knuckle down, let's get on with stuff, he will knuckle down and he'll get on with stuff, which might be the difference between, you know, you could have a horse that's like half a stone better than him. But if he wants to win the race and the other one's just messing about a little bit, I think he could outrun his odds. And I like the fact that he's been to Ascot before as well, because it's not essential. We know that. But I do feel like every horse should improve from its first run at Ascot if they take to the track. And he wasn't beaten far. He was only beaten 3/4 of a length. So I think his actual progression could be a bit steeper than he's shown. 66 to 1 as well is just, I mean, it looks stupid in my eyes because, well, it's got a bit of a chance, I think. So, Coventry Stakes looks easy, Will. We've completed it. but it'll be it's a good one. And again, this is why it's nice to do these things as well as the column stuff, because like there, if people want to build a place pot and they're not sure where the places to probably do it is, I mean, it could be the ones at the front of the market are just too good in the Coventry Stakes, but we know it works out year after year. Not all 3 of them will be right on the premises, and there are chances every year that none of them fill the frame. That's the leg you want to get through. Absolutely. Moving on, another leg we want to get through, 5 furlongs, Will. We haven't got much time to get this race finished. Our preview will be longer than it takes as for it to win this race.
Probably won't name the winner either.
No, I feel relatively confident. I think Asphora is not like being overlooked because look, George, like she's at the front of the market, but I think she's good, and she was all over him last year in the race. And she, as much as I was against her, she just looked better than everything else. They've reached for the blinkers now, which I like. Sometimes the headgear can put you off a little bit, can't it? Like if it's a bit Goshen-esque and it's like, well, they're a bit of a head case. You're just trying stuff for the hope that it will do something. But she's looked a little bit like she's kept a bit back for a long time, I think. And the fact that she's still going and winning races just shows the class of it. So I'm happy that she's got the blinkers on. She'd be the type of bet as well, especially like with it being a sprint where I think last year it was Big Evs that I had a good each way bet on because I was like, I can't see how he's out the frame when there was 4 places up for the grabs. Asphora very much feels like that as well. But the same as Big Evs last year, I think this is the one that will win it. So like I'm sure she'll be in the frame. You can make bits of cases for other horses as well, and that's the thing. I don't want to start to get too much involved in the other horses because it might start to put me off Asphora. But a comeback run this year, I know she hasn't run at Haydock like she did last year, which I don't know it's an unknown more than anything. It's not a concern for me, but the level of form that she's shown in a couple of runs that she has had this season look like she's at least about where she was last year, and the blinkers will put her back to it. Like I say, at least what she did last year, the grounds will be perfect for her. She has got back form on soft as well, but she's just a class horse that just goes on everything. I really like her. But Believing's the one that was a little bit annoying when she won her Group 1 last time, because I'm glad she did, but I backed her so many times. She got done by the draw in the Nunthorpe as far as I was concerned, and then she didn't get done by the draw when she went over to Ireland and got beat by the same horse again. But I think that breakthrough win at 6 furlongs is enough to say that, look, at 5 furlongs, she shouldn't be joint favourite with Asphora. So I think there's a bit of value in the price, but more for the fact that I'd feel more confident sort of having a juicier each way bet on her rather than just taking a win dart, say if she was like 5-2 or 3-1. But I'd back her regardless in this. So I've made it sound fairly obvious, Will. And again, I'm sticking towards the front of the market on the Tuesday at the moment. Yeah, loads of big prices in here and loads of horses that through the season may have been sort of tasked with this being a race that they could go and win. So where was your eye drawn for the King Charles III Stakes?
Yeah, bigger prices again, really. I think towards the top of the market, Asphora and Believing, that they were real standouts from last year's race, I think, because they kind of raced in a smaller group towards the stand side away from the main action, and they were still classy enough to come through and be in the mix-up. So, definitely respectful of them. But have they had the same preps? That would be my slight worry. Obviously, Asphora had the Haydock prep last time out. The blinkers have gone on. Is that a sign that maybe they just need her to spark a little bit more than she has done, and she might not be 100% there? I don't know, maybe overreading that. Regional we haven't seen for 2.5 months since obviously that run in Maidan. Is that going to be a help for a sprinter? Believing is in stall 1, right on a limb. Is that going to be helpful? She seems to have been drawn out of so many big races. She finally landed one, didn't she? But bigger prices are where I was looking, and it's a horse who I was very, very sweet on for the race at Haydock 3.5 weeks ago. Now just trying to remember the name of the race. Actually, the one won by Magira, the Temple Stakes. That's it. Yeah. American Affair, who I still maintain absolutely categorically that this is a Group 1 sprinter in waiting. I think if Paul Mulrennan, he's usually so good in kind of these races in terms of picking where to be and when to make your move, etc. If he could have that race back again, or one race he could have back again in the last few weeks, that would definitely be it. Because I think he got hoodwinked into thinking all the pace would be middle, but actually the best part of the track was down stand side, and it was always the case over those couple of meetings at Haydock. That's where the winner came, Magira, and a couple of placed horses came there as well. American Affair, as a result, got keen down the middle, didn't have cover. And then when he wanted to go for the gap closed. So the fact that American Affair was, that ability level was still there to get within a couple of lengths of Magira when so much went wrong that day. For me, the times he's been clocking in handicaps, everything suggests he's a Group 1 sprinter in waiting. And you'd hope that the breakneck, 5 furlongs at Ascot early is going to allow Paul Mulrennan to settle. He's near a lot of pace as well. There's going to be pace all across the track, but Frost at Dawn, Regional are both horses that go forward, and they're drawn next to him. Asterius in stall 9 down the middle. So it's probably going to be Arrowhead style. And if there is one horse in the race that we haven't seen the best of yet, despite doing plenty of winning, I really do genuinely feel it is American Affair. So sort of 16 to 1, 18 to 1. He's only that price because of what maybe looked as if reaching a ceiling point in a Group 2 last time out. But for me, there were so many reasons as to why he didn't perform that day, or perform to the level that I was hoping he would anyway, given the size of bet that I did have on him that day. So it's not a case of me just purely sticking with the horse that I've always had an inkling for. I genuinely feel he's that Group 1 sprinter in waiting. So hopefully he gets the chance to do so. And the price is value driven enough to keep him on the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is one of those that on figures he's got a bit to find, but on what he's potentially going to be able to achieve, because he hasn't had the opportunities to do the numbers yet, has he?
Yeah, official ratings, and it's just someone's opinion, isn't it?
100%. And that Temple Stakes run as well, because I like American Affair. When he won the handicap at the start of the year, I was just thinking, well, he was set up for that, and then he's just a very good horse. In that Temple Stakes as well, it was definitely one of those where you just watch it back and you think the jockey's going to just think, I've done not everything wrong, because it's not intentional, but you just look at it and think it's a bad race. They're going to learn from that, and then they will take that forward. And I wonder a little bit, and it probably isn't this, but I wonder whether they're like Paul Mulrennan was trying to ride the perfect race because he didn't want to have any excuses to get beat, and maybe possibly overcomplicated things a little bit. Whereas in other times when he's run absolute belters of a race in big field handicaps, you look at him and just think, why have you put him there? And it's almost just like he's just so calm and cool on him that then he's just like, I'm just going to trust that the gaps are going to open. Whereas it did feel a little bit more forced in that Temple Stakes. And that's not necessarily a negative for the fact that Paul Mulrennan's on again, but I think he'll be calmer now. I feel like it's another group race. The pressure's off a little bit now from stepping from handicap company into that group element and like having all those wins in a row. And especially at somewhere like Ascot, we see those horses that will travel and they'll just pick up at the end. He's not that far away from Ascot either. I can see a world where them two are traveling and I will be saying, no, like, please don't find anything American Affair. And then it is just that he could quicken like she did last year, because it's those types, I think, in these races that win it, don't they? There's a few that are in there. You're hoping the ones that in front will still go, but you sort of know your fate when there's one looming up that they are going to quicken. And it's crazy with these sprinters how fast they've got to turn a foot after going breakneck from the start as well. So yeah, good looking race. 18 to 1 about him, with quite a few places up for grabs for banger. And again, place pot leg, Will. There's 23 runners in here. It's not a handicap. It's only going to play 3 places. And you could have the first 12 split by a few lengths, couldn't you? So high margins, big prices, winners galore. That's how we do it on the Which Bookie YouTube channel. Right, and a much easier race, Will, coming into the St. James's Palace Stakes. Back to the Group 1 at a mile, like we have with the Queen Anne Stakes at the start of it. Similar to last year, really, isn't it? We had some Guineas horses going against each other, and then you're trying to work out where the pecking order sits. And we've got the prices at the moment with Field of Gold at the front of the market, 5 to 6. Ruling Court, who didn't obviously go for the Derby because the ground went against him, at 3 to 1. Henry Matisse at 4 to 1. Lots of bigger prices after, but even horses like Rashabar at 28 to 1 in a race that could be fiddling and there could be problems, has got his chance. Officer at second string for Aidan O'Brien's 50s, 80 to 1 for Winlord for Andrew Baldwin, the other Juddmonte runner, and then 125 to 1 for First Wave, who again you might be reaching a little bit, but it's only 7 runners, Will, and it's it's going to be a real exciting race. What are your thoughts on Ruling Court? Obviously, was not, I don't want to say like trained for the Derby, but was aiming for the Derby. It's a 10-day turnaround in between. I know the ground, everything will be sort of fine for this instance rather than the Derby. So there's no concerns on that front. But how does that sort of thing sit with you, given the fact that on the prices and the fact that Field of Gold, yes, he went and won the Irish 1,000 Guineas, but there wasn't enough of an excuse. And the 2,000 Guineas said it reversed the form, but they've sort of ran close enough that you'd think they're equals coming into this race. One of them's 3 to 1, one's 5 to 6. Why do you think that might be?
Well, it's just the trend of his kind of upward curve, Field of Gold, isn't it? You know, in some senses, obviously what happened at Newmarket in the Guineas was unfortunate, but it also probably, you know, gave him a good bit of food for thought, the horse himself as well, in terms of, you know, learning with the experience, also connections, learning with the experience in how best to get the best out of him. And Juddmonte, you know, to their sort of credit in terms of their forward thinkingness, essentially, that I think they ran Winlord in that Irish 2,000 Guineas as a pacemaker, didn't they, really? And perhaps a potential spoiler for some of the Ballydoyle horses as well. And it worked perfectly, because a well-run mile, and, you know, Field of Gold came through and showed his class again. Now, Winlord's in here again. I mean, Oisin Murphy's on board, you know, probably just the Andrew Baldwin connection again. And on his day, he's a good horse, but I can't imagine that he's not going to go and set a strong tempo again. And I'd imagine, given the way that Henri Matisse won the French 2,000 Guineas, that Ballydoyle will be happy for that as well, because Henri Matisse benefited from that strong pace and got drops on the line pretty much bang on in that 2,000 Guineas. So I think we've got the prospect of a really well-run race here. And there's one horse that, in terms of the most likely winner or the bet to actually win the race, I'm not sure I'm really, got too many angles in with that. But I do think if Rashabar is just ridden a little bit more conservatively compared to what he was in Ireland last time out, when he was just in behind the pace with Winlord and Hot as Hell, and then he got chopped for room at about the 2 furlong mark, just when Sean Levy wanted to go and ask him, and he stuck on quite nicely to the line. I actually think he's got a really good chance of filling second here behind Field of Gold, Rashabar. All his form mixes in with Henri Matisse and Ruling Court through various different lines, through the likes of John Quill, and also when they've met themselves as well. And I think if Rashabar was trained by anyone other than Brian Meehan, he wouldn't be as big a price as he is in here, because his level of ability is right up there, certainly with the likes of Ruling Court and Henri Matisse. And I think I haven't seen too many without markets as yet, without Field of Gold, but you'd probably, looking at the prices, you'd be getting 8 to 1, 7 to 1, something like that for Rashabar in that market without. And because there'll be 6 runners in that field, essentially, you could probably have an each way play on that, because you've got the second place to go at as well with some firms. So certainly think that would be the way I'd be looking into the race, because I think he, in pure level of ability wise, he's not far behind Ruling Court and Henri Matisse, if at all.
Yeah, And that was, of course, his first try at a mile as well, wasn't it? And typically, I mean, when he ran behind Whistle Jacket, he was well out the back, wasn't he? But more recently, he's been ridden a bit more prominently, hasn't he? So as much as they steadied him in that race, they've gone there obviously thinking, well, I don't think they've gone there to try and get beat in a race, but they've gone there knowing full well that they're in 1,000 guineas, 2,000 guineas over an island with a horse like Field of Gold. Like, let's just ride him almost as an educational piece. And it's another one of those that, he's a Royal Ascot winner last year, isn't he? This would have been a target for the season. So there's every reason to think he could be better, and he will improve for that performance. That's why I was saying right at the start of it, like 28 to 1 about him top price is mad. The 7 runner things is the annoying element, isn't it? But I can't imagine there's any non-runners in this race. You can get 3 places with Ladbrokes and Corals, and they're 22 to 1 top price Ladbrokes and then 20 to 1 Corals. So, I mean, I would personally look at that and just think I'd happily sacrifice the 5 points or 8 points that he is for a top price to get the extra place. I think 20 to 1 about him, 3 places is massive, considering, as you've said, there are a number of horses that are just pacemakers. They're literally just in there to do something else. So you take at least one of Aidan O'Brien's out is 125 to 1. That's like literally $1 million. You take Winlord out of it. That's another one that's a pacemaker. That's probably $1 million. You've then got yourself a 5-runner field. He's only got to beat like 2 horses in those, and then you get your likes of Ruling Court, Field of Gold, Henry Matisse. They're all going to try and run their race, aren't they? But it's going to suit one of them more than it's going to suit the others. And as much as they could all be in like a tight finish, it could be a tussle. Yeah, I like the Rashabar in, especially for like advice for people that haven't already played stuff. But all that said, I'm definitely getting stuck into Field of Gold, and it's from a price perspective. I do think that, like, maybe logically looking at it, it's much easier to build a case around Ruling Court being the bet because he is a bigger price. But it's similar to Cheltenham, and obviously we're trying to do this all year round anyway. But it's similar to Cheltenham, I feel. With some of them, it's like, well, no, but like I want to back the winner. I want to back the horse that's going to win the race. And as much as the price, I mean, I don't think it's too tight, but like 5 to 6 about him, I think is fine. And the biggest perk we've got is if Ruling Court ran in the Derby, he wouldn't be in it, and Field of Gold would be a 3s on poke. So I respect Ruling Court, I really do, but I don't like a horse that's been prepped for a big day and then 10 days later. I know people will say it's enough time to let him down and to turn it around, but like Brave, I know this is very different, right? But Brave Man's Game, when he went to Cheltenham in that RSA and didn't run, then he went to Aintree. Paul Nicholls was like, he left his race at Cheltenham, and it's like 3 weeks apart. This is the Derby. Ruling Court was there, wasn't he? And I just think if you've got these athletes, I don't know, this is not to say any offence to a trainer in the slightest, but is a trainer a genius or an idiot if they can train a horse for the biggest race of the year and then 10 days later picks her up? And that's it, isn't it? I think it is the fine line. So look, of course he's got the ability to do it, but I like Field of Gold as a horse. I do think his trajectory is good. I think it's going to be a really good race. I don't think he really could like streak clear of these, but I don't think he will. I think he'll win it. I don't think it'll be like a demolition, but if a horse does like demolish this field, he's the only one in my mind that could do that. So yeah, I think the 5 to 6 about him is fine. If he's 4 to 5 or something, I don't mind it either. It's when he starts getting into the 8 to 13 realms, but then you have to just think to yourself, the market's probably going to settle in the fact that Ruling Court looks the value, and he's going to tighten up whether he's got a chance or not. So we might. I'm hoping the morning of the race we might get some even money or some price boosts out there as well for like my level of punting stuff. That if you get some boosts about him and he starts going 6 to 4, 7 to 4, I mean, he's just a good value bet regardless. But I like him. It's a really exciting race. But yeah, he'd be one of my like stronger fancies across the week. But of course, he is one of the shorter prices across the week as well. But just because they're short doesn't mean they always win. But I think that Field of Gold will. So Rashabar can come second. So there you go, Will. I'll let you have the seconds in the mile group ones today. But again, they'd be some stonking each way doubles as well. Like that's the good thing across the week, isn't it? Speaking of each way doubles, we move on to the Ascot Stakes, Will. 2.5 miles, 20 runners, loads of big prices in here. We've got up to 6 places up for grabs with quite a few firms as well. So that's a nice one for the each way Permy stuff. The reason we've got a lot of big prices is we've got, I want to say the obvious ones at the front of the market, but they probably are. We've got Reaching High up there because it's Ryan Moore and Willie Mullins. We've got East India Doc. That's I really want to make a case for him to better win this race, but I just don't know how much he's necessarily got in the locker. But like he's got an obvious chance. Honoross, it still pains me to say his name after what happened in that triumph, but it's that, isn't it? It's like it's a flat horse. He goes and wins a triumph first time up, coming in these types of races. And I know it's not Ryan Moore on it, it's Will Buick, but still Willie Mullins. So they're all about 5 to 1. I mean, Reaching High is 4 to 1 in there. It's 10 to 1 bigger the rest. You've got Alphonse Legrand that's had that want to say was it Zarevich? It wasn't the one at Newmarket where there was the other side of the track and then lost the race, didn't he? But like he's got in these like
Yes,
big
Zarevich.
targets. Yeah, that's it. Like Tony Martin, like knows how to target horse or something. Got Jamie Spencer on. Like there's obvious bits in there. Nürburgring as well is coming in for a bit of support. There's loads even further down. Will like the likes of Dawn Rising. As much as they need to find some sort of resurgence from somewhere, they're all horses that you could expect coming back to like a Royal Ascot meeting that they could go and run big races in there. So look, I have got involved in this one. Short-term anti-post. So once I saw the jockey booking of Ryan Moore, I've backed Reaching High each way. East India Dock would be the one that I'd be tempted with now. So I feel like if I was betting now and someone just wanted to have a go in the race, I feel like if I played Reaching High and East India Dock each way with the 6 places, I feel like they're both going to fill the frame. One of them will hopefully win. But with those 6 places, like you might lose a small amount of your stake. I feel like that feels like a safe option, but that's mental to even say out loud, isn't it? Look, back to the first and second favourite each way if you weren't interested in the race, because it's almost like saying, you might as well just sit this one out. But it is a big field race and it is like pretty juicy. Is this one that you've found an in on or something at a bit of a bigger price that's more exciting than mine?
No, I'm slightly disappointed when I saw the draw for this race and also the ground conditions, because the one horse that I have been considering backing for it for a long time, thankfully didn't get involved anti-post, or I say that now, is Nürburgring, because to me, he's just, he's crying out for this trip on the flat. Every time you see him run, he ran in the Patingo handicap at Leopardstown back end of September, never near ran on into 4th behind the 2 Aidan O'Brien 3-year-olds who had a million stone in hand. He then finished 4th in the Irish Zarevich, again running on, only horse to do well out of being held up in that particular race. The other 3 ahead of him were always prominent. And then he's obviously gone for a chasing campaign, and he finished 4th in the Novice Handicap Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. And again, running on over 2.5 miles over fences. To me, if there was a 3.5 mile race on the flat, then he'd be the one to be on. He just looks he's classy. He's won a Galway hurdle, so he's clearly got a natural amount of pace. But the worries for me are twofold. Stall 20, right out on the outside. And I know, obviously over 2.5 miles, you've got that long run to the line to sort yourselves out. But you'd rather be, 5 or 6, wouldn't you, rather than 20? And the ground as well. I just think he needs a bit of cushion to be seen to best effect. He's got quite a high pounding stride. And I just wonder whether fast ground is just going to slightly negate his abilities. So it'd be galling if I saw him win. But I'm very happy that I'm not going to side with him. But he is a horse that's crying out for this kind of test. So if you wanted to ignore my doubts, then he'd be the one to be interested in for me. But I'm not going to back him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hear you on that, Will. And this is the thing that I've always felt with like a lot of, especially each way bets. I want to believe that there's a chance that they can win the race. So I get the sense from you there. I mean, do you think he still could run well? Because like I said, there's 6 places up for grabs. So a lot of people out there might be happy with a place. And like I say, for each way doubles across the day and stuff, maybe if only the place side's rolling, it might make him a bit more attractive. We haven't had a winner from the widest stalls, Will, but we have had this century. There's been 3 winners that have come from the 2nd or 3rd widest. So it's not impossible, but obviously it's not ideal. And like you say, when you combine that with another negative, it starts to add up, doesn't it?
That's it, yeah. And, you've got to think that if this was a normal race on any normal day, I wouldn't even be thinking about having a bet. It'd be a horse that would still be on the short list, but I'd be looking for other targets. So the fact it's Royal Ascot, the inclination is there to, I've got to back him because it's a race at Royal Ascot. But actually, no, I'm going to be conservative here, disciplined, and not go with it. I thought actually they were probably prepping him for that 2 mile amateur riders race at Galway on day 1 on the flat. That would have been where I thought they might have gone with him, given his liking for Galway, and that might still be on the radar. Who's to say they might even pull him out of Royal Ascot? I don't know, given the fast ground. But the key thing that they feel he's ready to go is the cheap pieces are back on, which he wore in the Irish Zarevich. So that's kind of an indicator that they're willing to roll the dice, but I don't know, the ground and wide trip, not ideal for me.
Yeah, and he's a good horse, isn't he? But when we were doing the Cheltenham Festival previews, loads of people were putting him up to win a big race there. Like he's one of those horses, isn't he? That clearly he's got talent and ability. Yeah. Not saying he doesn't.
Again, it was the ground. The Cheltenham Festival, I'd have considered him, but for the ground as well.
Yeah, exactly that.
He needs that cushion in the ground to stay stay in contention almost.
Yeah.
And then if he is, there'll be nothing that's staying stronger.
Yeah. Well, I imagine a few of the viewers are going to back it, and then if it does win, you can take a little bit of comfort in that someone's won a few quid as well, because like it's an interest, especially with it being Royal Ascot again, potentially small stakes. Like people like want to have a little go in a race, don't they? So it's good you've given an in there as well. If we move on to the penultimate race for day one, it's the Wolferton Stakes listed race over 1 mile, 2 furlongs. Help, please, Will, would be the first word to say in this race, because.
Yeah,
like this is a weird one. It's a bit of a strange one, right? Because there's not been a winner from stalls 1 to 4 in this race since 2010, I think. And then if you go back a little bit earlier as well, I don't think there's been a winner from stall 2, and there's the other ones. There's been a couple of winners from stall 3 stuff. Like I say, it shouldn't make a difference. Like potentially it does, and I know it's all relative to prices and bits, but it sticks. It's stuck in my head for the last few years in this race. It doesn't necessarily fully put me off stuff, but looking at this race, Harton was the one that just really confused me, because he's obviously just not as good as they thought he was my inclination to think that was the case. He's not as fast as they think he was like this season, so it's kind of feels a little bit like clutching at straws, because after he won the Jersey Stake last year, all Richard Hammond was saying was like, yeah, he'll definitely win a Group 1, and now he's like here now in listed company. You can't I can't help but think to myself, maybe they know something that I don't know. But you go down his breeding, especially the dam side, there's no way he gets the trip. And if he's just not as good a horse as he was before, he's a crazy second favourite. But I don't know, there's bits of money about with him. But that's the thing, I sort of had to stop myself looking at it, Will, because I was like, I feel almost blindsided that I think Harton, I believe what Richard Hammond was saying, I think he's a proper horse, and he's in a listed race. Yeah. But he had an issue last year for whatever reason, and he hasn't run very well this season. And then the fact that they're stepping up like so much in trip, there's too many things to actually want to follow him with some money. But I'd like Dan back against him, I guess is the best way of saying it. So yes, help me and help the viewers, Will, at 5:35 when I have an interest in this race. Where do we go with it? Because it looks on the betting perspective, it looks a real competitive, deep race.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's the type of race, isn't it? Because it's a listed race, there's a lot of 110 type horses in here that, they've earned that rating, they've reached that rating. Do they have much more left to come? Do they need much more left to come? And that's probably the case with the likes of, I guess, Nth Jar, Military Order, Torito, 1 or 2 of those types of horses. Hartem, I think it's more in hope than expectation stepping up to this trip. He might be classy enough to go and win, but it wouldn't be for me at all. Interesting footnote to this, actually. The horse I'm going to recommend here is in stall 1, Sons and Lovers. Now, with the draw on the round track at Ascot, I think over 1.5 miles, yes, having a wider draw is beneficial, because so different to 10 furlongs and 1 mile and 6, I think, because with 10 furlongs, 1 mile and 2 and 1 mile and 6, you've got quite a short run till the first kind of arch of a bend or the first bend itself. So actually being slightly more inside, I think is okay, actually, over 10 furlongs and over 14 furlongs there. Now, it's all dependent on what jockeys outside you want to do and the natural pace of the race as well. But over 1.5 miles, you've got longer to that first run. So you'll find that pace for that first section of the race to get to a position when you get to the first bend is probably stronger, and they get more drawn out. That's why high draws can get in, not travel too wide. The pace gradually builds up as you run uphill. And that's why horses from bigger stalls can be seen to good effect over 1.5 miles. I think over 10 furlongs and 1 mile and 6, it's not quite as pronounced, which is why I think that, looking at the draw over those trips is possibly not too much of a thing. I'm hoping anyway, which is because Sons and Lovers. And the other amazing thing, on day 1, out of his 7 rides on day 1 of Royal Ascot, Ryan Moore has been drawn in stall 1 in 6 of them. Can you believe that? No. Six of his rides are in stall 1. Now, some of them are on the straight track. So, but that's extraordinary. I think, someone somewhere has just thought Ryan Moore's number 1 best jockey in the world. Let's give him stall 1. It's kind of a random generator. But I think Sons and Lovers will be fine from that draw. Again, there's horses that will go forward. So you just imagine Ryan Moore, like he did, or like he does generally, he'll go forward and then just drop where he drops. If it's 1 back, if it's midfield, if it's rear of mid division, he'll be going the pace that he feels he needs to go. And then you just got to, I guess, hope that the race opens up. But Sons and Lovers, anyway, back to him. He's joined Joseph O'Brien, having looked like a really good horse in the waiting for last season for Jane Chapel Hyam. They've gelded him, and his 2 runs at the Curragh over 10 furlongs, for me, were massively eye-catching. Behind Gallen and Jan Bruegel, and then next time out behind Los Angeles and White Birch. That's Group 1 form, without a shadow of a doubt. Absolute top-notch Group 1 form. And he wouldn't have been ready for either of those 2 races. They were races to bring him on for this. So for me, if there's a horse that's going to go and improve a chunk from an already high level, it's Sons and Lovers.
Yeah, and he was one I like to look off as well, to be fair, because I remember, was it Dover when he was behind Ombudsman? Ombudsman looks like an absolute aeroplane, but I was thinking to myself, that looks like a very special horse. But I remember that Sons and Lovers being fair enough, close to him before joining Joseph O'Brien. Interested when you said about the Ryan Moore thing. So I quickly looked at some stat stuff. So Ryan Moore at Ascot, drawn in stall 1, has an actual versus expectation of 0.8. So he should have 100% and he's at 80%. Yeah. Ryan Moore at Ascot, drawn stall 1 over 10 furlongs, is 0 from 7. He's had 3 beaten favourites, but he has had 4 horses that have come second. But it is that, isn't it? Everything's individual and unique. If you want anyone to defy some sort of logic, it's Ryan Moore, isn't it? So it wouldn't be enough to potentially put people off. But again, each way value, you can pick up some profit for second and third wheel if it happens.
Exactly, yeah. And the other key thing here is that Joseph O'Brien has got another horse in the race, Gallen, who is a pacemaker. He's not a pacemaker, sorry. He's a forward goer. He's a front runner. Mm-hmm. And there's other horses that will push forward as well from wider out, the likes of Phantom Flight. And so you can see this being a well-run race and hopefully having that nice inside sit all the way round, and then being able to pull out, will be the ideal method. But look, there'll be hard luck stories all week with Royal Ascot. I'm fully expecting there to be 1 or 2 that don't get a run or get hampered. That's just the nature of it. But all things being equal, Sons and Lovers, I thought, should have been close to favouritism.
Yeah, that's fair, mate. And the thing as well, when I touched on the fact of the 1 to 4 draw, I looked at it and I was like, it's quite a few towards the front of the market as well. So again, with that draw stuff, it could be that stall 1's been terrible because they get boxed behind horses that are no hopers in the race anyway. So the fact that you get more, like I say, the better class horses or the more fancied horses drawn in those lower places, they're going to travel for longer, which means you're not going to get the traffic problems as soon potentially. So there's lots of ways to spin it, and you should never let one thing put you off. Remember they kept saying it in the Derby, didn't they? Can't win from stall 1, and then you get a couple of wins from stall 1 a couple of years in a row. Right, move on to the final race, Will. I feel like we're doing good for time. We've got under 50 minutes to get up to here, but of course we want to keep it as concise as possible. We need to let the excitement out as well. It's Royal Ascot, isn't it? We only get this once a year. The Copper Horse Stakes, do like this race, to be fair. Again, it's another one of the races that I struggled with, I'll be honest with you, Will, so I could do a bit of help in here. Mainly for the fact that Charles, again, Ryan Moore, Willie Mullins, I just don't really think, I just don't really think that this is his trip. I know he won at 2 miles in a maiden hurdle, and it doesn't necessarily translate on the flat form it works out, does it? But he was a French 10 furlong horse, wasn't he? And I don't think he even really like a dour stay there. So look, I don't really respect him where he's in the market, but I've said that out loud now. That means he's obviously got a phenomenal chance. But I was thinking that when there's a horse that is too short, where's the ones towards the front that are too big a price? And I don't feel like I could find one. French Master was impressive in his penultimate run for enough to say, look, he's been beaten by a handicap lot, he'll win next time out. Then at Goodwood, lots of stuff went wrong, and he looked like a bit of a monkey, didn't he? Then when he finally got through and got his head up on the line, you can watch it on the race post replays or whatever, but Raveling just can't pull him up. He only just got going at the end as well. So he's got an obvious chance. And again, a bit like the Esfora thing, a horse like that's got the blinkers attached to him, and you see they might look like a little bit of a monkey, it's an encouragement, because if I had a choice, I'd be like, put some headgear on him, because you might need to sharpen him up. But it doesn't mean it's always going to have that extra effect on it. And that was where I sort of ended up in the end. I think he's well handicapped. I don't think the Copper Horse Stakes is a race where there's 20 runners and every horse is primed to go and win the race. I mean, it's a maximum field of 16, isn't it? But I just feel like there's a load of cannon fodder in it, and I think that French Master's the right favourite. like I say, I'd just be scared to want to wager on a horse like him at 5-2. The fact that there are blinkers and there's could be an attitude type thing with him, for all that I think he's like ahead of his mark. Whereas like in an earlier case where Rosalian's like an 11-4 poke, obviously everything's relative to the individual horse that it is. But I just feel like he's a less complicated horse is probably the best way of wording it. But yeah, it would be boring because it's towards the head of the market as well. But like, yeah, I found it really hard to get away from him. But like I say, I wouldn't want to back him at the price. I don't think I wouldn't want to get stuck in anyway. Where did you see it, Will? Because again, the viewers might have to rely on you for some value on Tuesday. I've got some bigger prices as the week goes on. They'll be pleased to hear. But is there anything in it? 16 runners. We've got lots of firms offering 5 places. So there's got to be something in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like the top of the market, particularly at the prices. You know, like you said, French Master, I don't know. I mean, Jonathan Thady Gosden with blinkers, they're very happy to stick them on. It's kind of from his American days where blinkers are, you know, next to normal over there, really. So probably shouldn't overthink that. But look, he's priced up very, very skinny for me, as is Charles. You know, Caballo de Mar. Yeah, I mean, look, he's been really prolific, hasn't he? He's been an impressive horse on a number of occasions. That Chester Cup run was really good. He won at Haydock. Is this trip in this grade just going to slightly find him out? Possibly. It's like I said, a couple of bigger prices for me that I thought were really interesting. Barnso was the first one for Natalia Lupini, who, you know, wouldn't have a Royal Ascot heritage as such, but she's had a really sneakily good season or season and a half or so. And of all of these, you know, Oisin Murphy, I imagine, and his agent would have been looking around for rides in all of the races, and it just so happens that he's fallen upon Barnso here, which I think is interesting because he's got really good form. If you go back to his back end of his 3-year-old season last year, in a listed race behind the likes of Kinesiology and Chemistry, and then in that Patingo handicap that I've already mentioned for Nürburgring, he ran a very similar race to him actually, and he tuned up for this in the Vintage Crop Stakes at Navan behind Kyprios. And again, it was just a prep run, you know, absolute prep run. Better ground will be fine for him. Oisin Murphy has been booked. Looks like it's a bit of a plan. And he's, you know, thoroughly unexposed, really, in this type of race, Barnso. And I wouldn't mind betting if he was trained by Aidan O'Brien or, you know, anyone else, he's going to be a lot shorter than the current 18-1 available for Barnso. And the other one is Jesse Evans, the elder statesman of the whole field, 9 years old, for Noel Mead, a horse who actually is fairly unexposed on the flat on decent ground. Whenever he's had a go in a big handicap on the flat, it's been on softish ground. I mean, he finished 4th in that Irish Cesarewitch last year. He finished 6th in the English Cesarewitch. Essentially, soft ground over that kind of trip just saw his stamina ebb away. I thought 1 mile and 6, decent ground. That's probably his perfect set of conditions, Jesse Evans. He's not had a proper go at it on the flat, and he's been in really good form over jumps. So again, 18-1, you know, to me, he could easily outrun that price. So a couple of big price fancies for the last, Barnso and Jesse Evans.
Well, I like that, and I appreciate you mentioning about Barnso as well, because I've gone through the race. I looked at Fairbanks and saw that Oisin wasn't on that horse, and then I didn't really think to look where Oisin was going for a ride. But he's a horse that's been to Ascot before that Fairbanks. But like that again, that is notable, isn't it? The fact that I mentioned that I don't think there are loads of horses that are targeted for this race. I think there's a few of them that will just run because it's a Royal Ascot runner and it's the trip and they'll get in type scenarios. But yeah, Barnso does look like it's been there. A little bit of money for it as well. Top price 16-1 at the time of recording, as low as 12, but only in a couple of places, and they're doing extended places. So good shout there, Will. And of course, that's not the play spot. We'll have already collected that. But again, beauty for those each way doubles. And especially because we can get them rolling across the days, can't we? So plenty to get stuck into there. Right, Will, I said it at the start. We're going to give our best bets for day one of Royal Ascot. I'm going to let you start. I'm the host, so I get to get away with that. If you don't mind giving me what would you class as, say, let's do like a nap and a next best type scenario in here, what your best bet would be and then what your second best bet might be.
Yeah, Sons and Lovers came close, but he's probably third cab off the rank, if you will. The next best would be in the Coventry Stakes, Rock on Thunder for Kevin Ryan, drawn slap bang down the middle, near the pace. Really good win on debut at Leicester. You know, a few things weren't ideal for him that day, and he still won with any amount in hand. I think he's going to improve a good chunk. And Kevin Ryan doesn't often send 2-year-olds to Royal Ascot, so that's to be noted. Rock on Thunder in the Coventry. And the best bet, I think, is Sardinian Warrior in the Queen Anne. Certainly the best priced horse, I think, in relation to how he's priced compared to the Lockinge form, which is good form, but not unbeatable form, I don't think. And I think Sardinian Warrior has already shown a level that is up to that level. And I think he's significantly overpriced in the Queen Anne.
Love that. Well, I mean, I'll go away from the races you picked just for goodness for the viewers, so we can get a lucky 15 out of this one as well. I'll make my next best as Asphora, because I do believe that she's going to retain the crown. The blinkers, I quite like it. And then the best bet for me on the day, like I know he's a short price, but I just do not see Field of Gold getting beat. Of course, doesn't mean that's definitely going to happen, but I think anywhere close to even money about that horse looks like nap worthy status for me. So thank you, Will, so much for your time on this one. The viewers will have really appreciated this as much as I've done as well. It's good to talk horses at the best of time, but especially when it's Royal Ascot and especially with a good judge like yourself. We will be back for every single day of the Royal Ascot 5-day meeting. So it'll be similar time for tomorrow to get the Wednesday stuff out, and that's what we'll be doing. We'll continue to get the videos out sort of the day before with our views of what we fancy for each of those. Again, there's a link in the description for the final selections that we'll be putting out advised on the Witchbookie website, so please check that out. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get advised when we've uploaded these videos. Drop a like on the video if you do like the video. Drop a comment with what your best bet is for day one, and we will see you all again very soon.